And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Blake, I'm doing great. Week 11. This is going to be a really fun week to recap because, as we always love to say, whenever the slate isn't that great.
You say that every Monday, and I tell you,
I know.
Don't do that. Look what you
I
did.
know.
Look what you
I
did.
know. But here's the difference.
You almost ended Kurt Cignetti's regular season perfect streak.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
The difference is that the teams that were the legitimate threats proved themselves. And the pretenders, the frauds, were the ones that collapsed. So what I'm talking about here, which we're going to get into, you got Oregon, Indiana staring their season downs. Everything was on the line. They finish. They pull out their comeback victories. And then you got UVA, you've got Louisville, and you've got BYU dropping games that they shouldn't have lost. And now their footing in their conferences is completely screwed. So week 11 was the best thing that we could have had happen to us for figuring out who the legit playoff teams are.
I'm going to forgive Virginia.
I get it.
Chandler Morris getting knocked out the way that he did is egregious. It was egregious.
They still lost, though, and they're not in good position.
Let me take Mendoza off of Indiana yesterday, and you tell me if they're going to win.
But that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
But here's the truth that I want to get to you. When I have A&M at 2 next week, I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear a word.
Okay, I'm gonna save my thought on the game.
No,
because I'm not gonna get ahead of myself.
Here's the thing that I want to paint out. Georgia does that against Florida.
But that's the point, though. You didn't drop Georgia last week. This is what I'm going to bring up. You did not drop Georgia last week.
When Georgia does it, there's a national narrative from people like Nicole Auerbach who will say nationally.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. She don't include her in this.
Regardless if it's her or not. Georgia wins by 4 and kneels at the 1-yard line, and it's, oh, man, Georgia's not a real contender. Someone's going to have to explain Indiana and Oregon then. You're going to have to explain it.
Okay.
Because the SEC literally, and just saying this show kind of had the argument, regardless, you can't blame the SEC when now the Big Ten top teams are getting in dogfights their damn selves.
Okay. I understand that. But, Blake, the thing is, though, forget what everyone else was saying. This show, we came on here and we said what Georgia did was incredibly impressive.
We did.
Played bad, and they finished.
Correct.
I don't care what all the other slappies out there and their opinions on things and what they say. I want to have continuity in what we talk about. So my continuity is I'm going to praise Oregon and Indiana for winning.
I am too. Tonight, I am too.
Okay.
But
okay.
There also comes down to a point where I don't want to hear and get pushback from A&M over Indiana. There's a fine line here between both teams. And I got to be real with you. A&M just continues to explode. They continue to get better. A&M might be the best team in the country.
They're not. They gave up an egregious amount of rushing yards again. And that game could have been closer if
Fernando Mendoza, the last 2 times that we've seen him in crunch time, he threw a pick 6 and he threw another interception, and he got bailed out in the back of the end zone by an elite receiver.
He didn't get bailed out. That was a tremendous throw.
No, it's not.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. No, it's not.
Yes, it is. He had to throw it over a defender.
Did you see the catch? Did you see the catch?
He had to put that somewhere for his guy to go up and get the ball. There were 2 defenders
it's not
he
an
could throw over.
Throw.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. It's
the
elite.
Whole drive was elite.
No, an elite. He went 50%, and you want to call that elite?
The drive. That drive that he had required.
It's not elite.
Oh my. I can't. We were not even 5-6 minutes into the show. I can't do this with you tonight.
I told you. I literally told you, you better go get some big boy pants because I am hyped up and ready to go. It's the camouflage. And by the way, it's 30 degrees down here in the South. So I'm feeling frisky. My nipples are hard. I mean, there's so many.
All right, well, let's get going because we've got a lot that we got to get into, and I don't want to blow my my energy.
Blow your load. You don't want to blow your load. Is that what you said?
Didn't say that. I didn't say that.
All right. Nevertheless, we're live. Everyone do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. Do us a favor. 60% of you watch this show and you don't subscribe. What in the Rudy Poo is that? So what Joe and I are asking, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button below. We want to get to 30,000 subs by the end of football season. So just do us a favor. Hit that sub. Send it to 10 of your friends. Say, hey, this guy Ruffino is a complete asshole. Just go and listen to him. He has no idea what he's talking about. Make me the fool. I'll take the subscription over. You don't have to pay anything for it either way. Did you see the comment? Why you keep asking people to subscribe? We're not paying for this. I'm like, it's free on YouTube. Just do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Every Ruffino and Joe show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Download the FD Sportsbook app via Android, Apple, iPhone. Boy, did FanDuel have a day. Of all of the games yesterday, Joe, not named Texas Tech BYU, they were on it by half a point. Believe it or not. So, down the stretch, here comes FanDuel, and we're glad to be partnered with them throughout the football season. We're glad to be able to partner with them throughout the rest of the playoff season as well. So, download the FD Sportsbook app. We're gladly partnered with them. All right, Joe, where do you want to go here first? We didn't talk about this. So,
why don't we go to Texas Tech so that we can cooler heads can prevail, and then we can start yelling at each other.
Okay, sounds good. Texas Tech completely dominates number 8 BYU yesterday. Joe, as we recap this game, is Texas Tech, man, the score is not indicative of how that game went down. Complete domination by the Red Raiders. Pew, pew. Here we go. What did you think of Texas Tech getting back and showing nationally that they can contend here?
Yeah. Blake, as you just said there, the score is not indicative of how they played. They were incredibly sloppy on offense. They could not finish drives. They kept getting down. They kept getting in really good, strong field position, and they just couldn't finish. And it makes you wonder, but the way that they played, and those who watch the game know that what we're talking about here, but the way that their defense dominated, completely shut down the BYU offense, holding them to 67 rushing yards in this game.
Insane.
The way that they completely manhandled this BYU team, it makes me wonder how much could they have actually won by had they finished off a number of those drives and didn't kick field goals, had they gotten points at the end of the first half instead of going for it on fourth and not finishing that drive. Blake, Texas Tech proved that they are the best team in the Big 12. And quite frankly, I think that there is a separation between Texas Tech and the rest of the teams in the Big 12 because BYU was supposed to be the representative. They were supposed to be the best team with the best record, but they were not ready for what Texas Tech brought to the table in terms of the talent that they had in their front seven. Jacob Rodriguez, best linebacker in college football at the current moment. Romello Height, David Bailey had another tremendous game, and their sack total of only 2 sacks doesn't even paint the full picture of how much they were flustering and harassing Bear Bachmeier the entire game. Like this Texas
Bachmeier stood in there, and he was tough, man.
Credit to him for the way that he played. My biggest thing with this game, Blake, is I think that Texas Tech has kind of reestablished themselves now that Baron Morton's back on the field.
Got to be real with you. So, like, you talked about not being able to execute offensively. Let's talk about that in this game specifically. Not saying that they haven't done it in the past. Sometimes they haven't. But, Joe, you get the muff punt to start off after you get forced in a 3-and-out. So, Joe, think about this. The first 2 drives for Texas Tech, the first one was minus 17 yards because both linebackers for BYU completely ruined the day for Morton, and company. Ezra and they were just absolutely after Morton the entire day. But you get a punt on the 3-and-out, negative 17 yards, then negative 12 yards after a muff punt, and you only get a field goal. Joe, they have almost negative 30 yards in their first 2 drives. BYU, you got to give them credit. Look, I know offensively they are not that great, but defensively, that linebacking core now healthy was really good, and Morton did not make quick decisions at all. They couldn't run the ball early on in this game. And I think it's a mixture of a couple of things here. Number one, I do think BYU defensively is pretty damn good. This is the best team that they faced offensively. And, Joe, I got to be real with you. I mean, look, did they give up 29 points? Yes. Considering the fact of how bad their offense was, I think they played stellar, to be real with you. There was a lot of really good things that they did. They wore down in the second half. And in the second half, man, they gave up 16 points. I mean, it's not like that they were very bad defensively. I mean, their offense didn't score a damn point, barely got past the 50-yard line until the fourth quarter when Texas Tech started rotating different guys into the fourth quarter there. But this offense, I got to be real with you, man. Their front five got pushed around a little bit. They kind of got pushed around. They did not make quick decisions. They did not make quick throws. Now, the theme of the day is going to be, regardless of the team, is that you played sloppy and you found a way to win. So that should not be any difference for Texas Tech. And they did. Their defense completely dominated a very inept offense, and they are the best defense in the Big 12. I got to be real with you, and this is going to get me killed on this show for saying this. I don't consider them having a loss mentally.
No.
Because
context is important.
Context is important. Hammond's got to come in. You go against Arizona State, and you get nicked. Right now, I look at them a lot differently than the other one-loss teams at the current moment. Now, Morton's beat up. And I got to be real with you, Joe. I think a lot of his decision-making is based off of him worried about the injury. He is battered, and he is beat up. They got to get to a bye week as quickly as possible or find an opponent where they can rotate him out of there. He is beat to shit. He's got to make quicker decisions because let me tell you what happened yesterday for Texas Tech. If you think that BYU is going to be the last team that sends that amount of pressure after you, you are dead wrong. I love the way, though, after having negative 30 yards on your first two possessions, you were able to get the 92-yard drive, run the football. You were able to lean on the run game. You're going to have to finish in the red zone, and that is the biggest problem that they had yesterday, Joe, is they couldn't finish in the red zone. Also, in the first half on third down, Joe, they were 1 for 6. The reason they were able to prevail in the second half, there were 6 of 13, or excuse me, 6 of 11, in the second half, able to convert on third downs. I look at this situation and say, look, defensively, you were elite. You forced 3 total turnovers. But the bottom line was, man, offensively, they got to clean some things up in that front, and Morton's got to make quicker decisions because if he doesn't, other teams that when you face in the playoffs are not going to be so forgiving.
No, and I think that's a very good point that the offense was a little bit disjointed at times in this game, and they did not – I didn't really like the approach that they had at times.
I didn't either. Why are you still taking deep shots, Joe, when there's so much pressure?
That was what bothered me is it felt like a lot of the shots that they were taking were these contested one-on-one situations that they were trying to create, and it just didn't really make much sense for me because it wasn't working, and they kept trying to go back to it. I really like, and I also kind of find it a little bit funky that they have so much success generating these big explosives on the ground. Jacoby Williams keeps doing it, and then you get Dickey. He'll have a big play here and there as well. I don't know why they don't try to orchestrate and build their offense more around running the football. I feel like their best performances this season have come when they've been creative and they've been able to establish the run. I think, to your point, they need to throw the ball less in order to protect Morton. Morton's clearly banged up, and they now don't have Hammond to turn to as an experienced backup. And I know Hammond struggled in the Arizona State game, and kind of his rough performance contributed to that loss. I don't even know who the third guy is. Most teams do not have a third quarterback that is capable enough to step in. There is a stark difference when Morton's in there and they need him to deliver a difficult, clutch, well-placed throw, and then when Will Hammond had to step in those games when he was playing. I will give the offensive line credit, by the way. They gave up a lot of pressure to Morton in the first half and then did not allow any sacks in the second half. So the offensive line buckled down. I think that was a big separation point because they generated a lot of push and they did a great job of protecting Morton.
4 sacks in the first half is abysmal. Look, there are other teams. Look, there are other teams in the Big 12 that can utilize this that offensively are just more inept to attack. Okay, we'll talk about that with Texas Tech as it goes on here. I agree with you. You gave up 4 sacks in the first half. Morton didn't get sacked in the second half. To your point on the run game, Joe, they had a run of 43 yards. They had a run of 33 yards. I mean, they had 198 total rushing yards by their backs. Like, I don't understand. Like, listen, are you having tough success where there's some times where you got some no gains? Yes. I thought they bailed on it too much, right? Like, they got in a drive and they're trying to run the ball and it gets stopped at the line of scrimmage and they're trying to throw the ball all over the place. I don't think Texas look, I don't know how Texas Tech fans think of this because I don't know. You are a run-first offense. And it's about time you start acting like it. Look, nobody in the country loves what you do at wide receiver more than me. I love Aiken. I love Virgil. I love your tight end, Terrence Carter. I was begging my team to take him from ULL. They didn't want to do it. That's on them. That's why they got their teeth kicked in yesterday. That's neither here nor there. The bottom line here is you are a run-first football team, and you need to start acting like it. I love what they've done. Now, defensively, Joe, I mean, good Lord, they fly all over the ball. This is what a really, really good defense looks like against inferior offensive teams. They did it against Utah with not a lot of speed, but a lot of power. They did it against BYU with a lot of power, not a lot of speed. They just keep dominating. I saw your tweet yesterday. You thought Rodriguez should be a Heisman finalist. I do. I don't think they'll do it, but it made me chuckle because of the fact you're not wrong, right? Like, I mean, the interception alone that he had was just so insane.
So
they're not going to do it, but he is the quarterback of that defense, former quarterback himself. But to your point and what you've been saying over the last 9 weeks, their edge room is insane. David Bailey's insane. The pressure that they put on it's insane. You talked about the 2 sacks. Get this, 13 hurries though.
Yeah,
13 hurries. That is insane. So they really got after it too.
Yeah. By the way, Elks called me out on a super chat, and he was justified for doing this, saying that I said Jacob Rodriguez was the best linebacker in the country. Guess Ohio State Styles and Reese do not exist.
Of course,
right. I misspoke.
I misspoke. It's about Ohio State because, of course.
Well, no, but he's right. I misspoke because Arvell Reese has been the best player in college football this season that nobody is talking about. The guy has been the most disruptive player.
People aren't talking about him.
Arvell Reese is not getting enough. I'm saying that he is the best player in college football, and not enough people are declaring him as the best player in college football. He absolutely is. He just doesn't get that kind of recognition because
I still don't think he's the best player on his team, but that's neither here nor there.
You don't think Arvell Reese is?
No, I don't.
Who do you think is a better player than
Jeremiah Smith? Yeah. Okay.
Obviously Jeremiah Smith. Hold on. I'm talking about from like a game by game, has the biggest impact for his team. He's the most unique player in college football. And Sonny Styles is also a very talented linebacker. But what I meant to say about Jacob Rodriguez, I do stand by the fact that he should be in the Heisman conversation because his stats for a linebacker are unbelievable. We wanted to put Ruben Bain in there, and he had no sack production the whole year. This is Jacob Rodriguez's stat line right now. He has 9.5 tackles for loss. He has 91 total tackles, 7 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and then he also has where's interception totals? Is that on here? I believe so. Wait, no, he's got 3 interceptions.
Right.
This dude creates so many game-altering turnovers that completely shift the momentum of games when they need him the most. BYU wasn't going to get back into the game. It didn't really feel like it. But that spot completely deflated BYU. It took all the air out of them, and it really, really established this is a defense that can completely drive you into the ground.
Well, and I didn't agree with Chris Fowler, trying to second-guess Joey McGuire for going for the touchdown right there before half. They're not going to score in the game. You score a touchdown there, you're ending the game. I'm sorry, it's over. Listen, BYU's not a good team. We had a conversation. They're not a good overall team. They're a really good defense.
They're a
They're
rankable team. They're not a playoff team.
Well, no, they're not a good team because, Joe, they're going to – like, I look at the top 12 to 15 defenses, and I'm not saying Texas Tech doesn't deserve to be in there because they do. All I'm saying here is those other teams will do the same exact shit to you. And I don't think that they deserve that number 8 ranking. I don't think they deserve to be in the top 12 coming into this, even though they were undefeated. That's my opinion. However, they do have a lot of really good pieces defensively. They just have no offense, and it showed. Look, you saw a bona fide playoff team, and that's what Texas Tech is. The only team that can defeat Texas Tech right now on the rest of the teams on their schedule, even the conference championship, is Texas Tech. Now, when I am assistant to the regional commissioner of college football, okay, I'm going to let tortillas fly on the field. But they're a really, really physically gifted team. Morton's got him. Joe, I'm going to keep saying this. Listen, when we talk about wins, we always want to be happy. And I'm with you, Texas Tech. You want to get where you want to go, your quarterback better make quicker decisions. Joe, he missed a lot of checkdowns. Some of those sacks are on him. He's got his running backs in a check down situation. He's got to throw the football. But you are a run-first football team, and it's about time that you start understanding that. But a really physical and really dominating game for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great game.
All right, let's move on here. Joe, Indiana is able to overcome what was probably one of the wildest innings of this college football season. Indiana finds a way. Kurt Cignetti after the game saying, I've been in this game a long time. I don't think I've ever just witnessed what I just witnessed. Your thoughts on the recap of Indiana squeaking out against Penn State?
Blake, as I said at the beginning of the show here, we came on the show last week and we gave Georgia credit for performing well and finishing in a sloppy game against Florida. Georgia found a way to win, locked in the fourth quarter, did everything that they needed to do, and we gave them credit. Good teams find ways to win was what we talked about. And it's something that we talk about on this show often. Indiana deserves the same credit because Indiana did not play a clean game, and they had multiple key injuries, including Elijah Surratt not being available. The season was on the line. Fernando Mendoza takes a sack at the start. Well, a perfect season was on the line.
There you go.
Perfect season's on the line. Mendoza takes a sack at the start of the drive. It is one of those plays.
So wild that he took a sack to start that drive and they scored. I'm sorry. Yes. God bless it.
Normally when you take a sack like that in a situation like it completely derails a drive. There is no way or path to end up marching the ball down the field. It is just not something that constitutes success. He made important big throw after big throw, drove the ball down the field. He didn't do any BS where he checked it down or scrambled and tried to run to the sideline. He delivered throws with pressure bearing down on him multiple times on that drive. Look, I don't think that Mendoza has the stats to win the Heisman. I don't think that he will. But I think that what he showed is that he has the grit, the clutchness, just the overall intensity needed to finish a football game when everything was on the line. And I think that that legitimizes Indiana as a title threat, as a Big Ten championship threat. You need to be able to face adversity and to overcome adversity to go on runs. Ohio State literally did it last year. They faced adversity twice, and they failed in adversity in those adverse situations, and that made them better. If you could succeed in those spots, I think that that is an incredibly, incredibly underrated thing in this modern version of college football to setting yourselves up for postseason success. I commend Indiana for what they did. I commend Mendoza for what he did. That dude is a baller.
That back shoulder throw before the touchdown sequence, the back shoulder throw to Becker along the sidelines was ridiculous. It was utterly, utterly ridiculous in a crucial spot. Listen, in reference to the game, Joe, you spoke on this earlier, and I kind of want to dig into this. They couldn't put it away. They just could not put Penn State away. And what separates teams when you talk about Ohio State and Indiana? We had this discussion coming into this. Is Curt Cignetti and Indiana going to try to make a statement because Ohio State just played Penn State and made a statement, right? And you were thinking coming into the game, oh, Curt Cignetti's going to run this thing up because they want to try to make a statement here. They couldn't put them away when Ohio State could, is the thought that just keeps rolling around in my mind. Go to the second half for just a moment. You're up 17-7, and you lead off the second half with a field goal. This is where things turned for them. They had the punt, the really bad Fernando Mendoza interception, another punt, and then you lost the lead. They legitimately got shut down for a half in the first time that we've seen Indiana shut down in a half. How? I think the bigger question is that we've seen Indiana be so dominant. What did Iowa and what did Penn State do to really ruffle those feathers? Joe, they just got after Mendoza when it mattered. And you're right. In the last drive, they got after him. He made some big throws. The relentless amount of pressure really bothered Mendoza. So, again, you get the field goal to make it 20-7. Then you punt, interception, punt, and then you got a lead down for a touchdown. Also, what did Penn State do at an elite level? Not a great level, an elite level. Joe, that time of possession where you're only giving the ball to a team for 3 possessions after a field goal is insane. They held on to that ball. And they wore the game down. Nick Singleton had a massive day. We saw a chink in the armor. But to get to your point, the team that can physically just hold on to the ball and run it against Indiana will give Indiana, I think, some issues moving forward. Ohio State, we'll see that in a couple of weeks, I think. But you're right. When the going got tough and they need to make the plays to win, they did. Championship-level teams do that. To everyone on audio, you can't see what I'm pointing to. Again, you keep seeing it over and over and over again. We've seen it from Georgia. We just saw it now from Indiana. The catch in the back of the end zone is arguably one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life. I mean, to not have your right foot fall out of bounds and then get the other foot down, I don't know how to explain it. Joe, I've been thinking about this all day. How are we going to explain the catch that ended it? How? Because you can talk about the entire second half. I can talk about chinks in the armor for Indiana, pressure that they got in the interior did Penn State, the lack of run game in the second half. But the only thing that I can think about is how am I going to come out here tonight and explain that catch? Championship level. That's how I explain it. To your point, teams that find ways to win when everything's on the line matters. And Indiana proved it against Penn State, who, Joe, I thought let everything hang out. They took their bra off in the second half, and they let them titties hang. I mean, they did. They let everything go. I got to give Penn State a lot of credit for the fight. And by the way, we'll talk about this in a minute. Pena went off. And I also wonder, like, hey, man, what does an Ohio State do against you in that situation?
I mean, it's fair, but here's my only thing with this. I don't think that it's an ugly game. I don't think this is a game where we really pull from and we extract
every single thing.
Major issues like, oh my God, they had problems with X, Y, or Z. This now is going to hurt them. We're too many.
I would with
games.
Iowa and Penn State. The interior of that offensive line, Joe, got way too much push into Mendoza.
We're too many games into the season, I think, to really try to get that granular with every single game. I don't disagree. I think that their offensive line had a poor performance. I do not think that defines that their offensive line is bad. I think that they need to be better prepared and they need to play better. And in a situation where they go to the Big Ten championship game, which they're trending towards, their next couple of games are very favorable and easy for them to win. They're going to face off with a very good interior group. Caden McDonald's a really good dude for that Ohio State defense. It is going to be some tough sledding. They need to be prepared and they need to be ready to go to war. I don't necessarily think that just because they gave up some big plays to Trevor Pena that it means they've got issues with their secondary, because to defend them, Pons and Farrell, their secondary is one of their strengths. I think that their secondary has a lot of guys that are going to go on to get a lot of NFL attention. I just think that with the general flow of the game, it did not work well for them. Actually, I think what the bigger issue was, I forget if Aiden Fisher didn't play or if he was unavailable or if he was just banged up. I forget what the whole deal is with that. I think it was a lot more concerning that they gave up as many big plays to Singleton. And then especially that 19-yard grab that he had out of the backfield and then just ran into the end zone. That to me is a little bit more concerning, because if you enter a situation where you face a team, that is more translatable to being an issue to me, because they hadn't seen a team that had an athlete at running back that's that gifted. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with the team who does something like that and is able to throw out of the backfield to someone like Singleton.
To your point, their second half tackling on him alone was horrible. I mean, it was really bad. I mean, you missed 4 tackles.
Yeah.
On his touchdown, the throw in the flat. Yeah, we'll see about their secondary. Pena went off, had a good day. I mean, look, the tackling in the second half I thought was very sloppy. I just thought that I saw a team in Penn State that Joe just – I mean, they have the same number of athletes that you do. And it's the same conversation that you have with Georgia when it comes to Florida in a lot of ways. I mean, both teams fired their head coach. Both teams got a lot of really big-time dudes, and you're in a slugfest, an outright slugfest on the road. And I think that you get to a place in time where, look, they're going to have to figure out some of this pressure in the interior, but it is a sloppy win. But the thing about saying a sloppy win is it's a win, and
right.
you keep moving. Look, there is one thing I did worry about in reference to not putting them away. Indiana was 5 of 12 on third down. They're going to have to be better there. In clutch situations, it is what it is. Mendoza just made the throws when he needed to. And when you have a guy that can make the throws when he needed to, you're going to be a problem for everybody that you face.
No, absolutely. That's just the biggest takeaway from this. You got a guy. It's impossible to find a quarterback that you can trust in late situations. It really is. Look at how many teams struggle to do it. Look at how many teams think they have a guy and then he ends up
benched,
stalling or stalling in his development. It is hard to come by not only these guys that are physically gifted, but also have the decision-making, the natural feel, the poise. They don't collapse under pressure. They step up to the occasion. Mendoza is awesome. And also, this isn't really related to what we talk about on the show. For me, he still stands as my number one prospect in the upcoming draft. I think him doing that proved it to me, like for certain, and that, hey, this guy has what it takes if he was a rookie or he's a second, third-year player in the NFL when the season's on the line, that he is going to make a play when he is called upon. But, I'm impressed.
I got a text from a mutual friend of ours who's an assistant GM in the NFL. He texted me during the game, and he literally said, we're going to have to find out who Mendoza is.
Yeah.
That was his exact text to me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then when he got sacked, he responded right after that. He goes, oh, no, Fernando, no. You don't take a sack there. Then I don't respond to the text. And then he texts me after the touchdown and goes, oh, my God. I'm like, yeah, oh, my God. I don't know how to contextualize what they did.
No.
Because here's how I would contextualize what they did at the end and before we move on. I felt like a team with a whole bunch of portal players kind of felt like they'd been there before. They haven't been there. But just to give you an idea, they have not been in the situation this season exactly where they were in that final drive. They've never been there, ever. And I think it says a lot about culture. I think it says a lot about unity and team and about your quarterback. Joe, when's the last time that they've needed a last-second drive to win a game?
Right, they haven't. They hadn't really been challenged.
But they acted like – but it's – Joe, I'm at a baseball scrimmage today between two big-time programs with my son, and a guy hits a home run the first inning, and he's just jogging around the bases. And the guy behind me goes, man, he acts like he's been there before. And the old saying is, well, no, he hadn't. He hadn't been in there before in an LSU uniform or whatever. they just keep acting like they've been there before, even when they haven't. And I think that the personality of Kurt Cignetti is rubbing off on him. So,
absolutely.
All right, let's move on here. Joe, you want to talk about another thriller game? I don't know why people said that this wasn't a thriller. In the rainstorm, Oregon, the Ducks who love rain, find a way. Dante Moore, another quarterback that found a way in the last drive. Iowa takes the lead late, but Oregon able to get the field goal late to win it. Man, when you recap this game, what are your thoughts?
Look, I said this coming into the game. I thought that the Iowa defense was incredibly misclassified by a lot of people. Iowa's defense is incredibly fundamentally sound. And also the other part about this, Iowa's offensive line was one of the best in the country coming into this game. Like, I give Oregon a lot of credit before we talk about the how the game ended off. They managed to rush for 261 yards against one of the best defenses in college football. They also held one of the best offensive lines and rushing attacks in the sport to 101 yards. I thought that they won the line of scrimmage battle, and I know that Iowa marched down, had that long drive in the fourth quarter. That was the only real drive that they pieced together that they had success with. Most of their drives stalled and got completely stopped in short yardage situations because they were going 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and eventually they'd be a yard short of converting. Blake, the biggest part with this, and it's a very similar sentiment to what we just had with Indiana, Dante Moore had a bad game. Like, he was in a really tough spot. It was pouring. It was not a situation that they were supposed to succeed. The run game took over when they needed to. But, dude, they got the ball back with 1:51 to go, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think they're going to be able to do this. It's pouring. When was the last time you seen a game-winning drive in a torrential downpour? They move the ball down the field. They kick a field goal, and Atticus Sappington, man, that dude had the best game out of anybody. He killed it, and he took the opportunities that he had to win and to set up his team to succeed. Same sentiment as Indiana, Blake. Oregon deserves credit when it seemed like their season really was on the line. They would have probably been knocked out of playoff conversation because they wouldn't have had many opportunities to really establish themselves.
Yeah, USC, they would have to beat USC, so winner take all.
Right, because Washington lost. So this is a great, great job by Oregon for responding when they needed to most.
I'm not going to get on Dante Moore. Can I tell you why? Name a receiver that had experience that didn't go down.
Yeah,
and
that's the point.
Look, for Oregon fans, if you want to know, just ask me, but I'm not going to say the connection that I have there. You can put it all together. I reached out about the DK Moore injury because he did not go. Here was the text that I received. He twisted a knee, should be okay, probably not season ending. We'll monitor. We'll monitor that situation. However, Sadiq wasn't there either. I mean, Joe, I got to be real with you. Then you have another receiver that goes down. They are beat to shit at receiver. They're beat to shit from pass catching. Both teams were one-dimensional. And I got to say this to the Iowa defense. How do you know that a team's one-dimensional and you almost give up 300 rushing yards? That, that that's insane, number one. So not only are you in the rain, but you got a lot of situations going on. I got to be real with you. You're right. I thought Dante Moore looked sloppy. I don't think he looked sloppy in the sense of that he was making bad decisions. I think he looked sloppy because he had a slot receiver that ran a wrong route and he threw a pick, right? And the coaches are yelling. This is how I know that, it's not on a quarterback. You got both the head coach and the wide receivers coach yelling at a receiver for running a wrong route, and the ball gets picked. Regardless of all of that, Joe, when everything, again, like you said, was on the line, we just got done talking about this with Mendoza in Indiana. Boy, he found a way. Do I think Dante Moore's got to clean some things up mentally on some of the things? He took took a sack late in the third quarter. He has no business taking. He's got to throw the ball away. But, Joe, this was a slugfest. Literally, in the definition of slugfests, this was it. And Oregon was one-dimensional, and they still – that's the thing for me with Oregon. I thought they could go in this game and lean on them and Iowa not score. I didn't think they would – I ought to be blunt with you. I didn't think Iowa was going to score as much as they did. Certainly didn't see that 12-play, 90-plus yard drive coming. they actually made some throws, a long wheel route. I just couldn't. I was mortified completely. In all of that, you were a one-dimensional team on the road with your top pass catchers out, and you won against a ranked opponent. Who else wouldn't get credit for that? There are other teams with not the Oregon logo that would get credit for that. Joe, what do you make though of that long drive from Iowa? Because I got to give Iowa a lot of credit. Man, they threw the ball in crucial downs, right? Like, I mean, it's not like that they were lining up and running the ball in crucial situations on third down. They did at the end. They were throwing the ball on them. So the reason I asked that is because that's exactly what happened in the Penn State game, right? Like, let's go back to the Penn State game earlier in the year. What happened? Indiana the same too. Late in the fourth quarter with the game on the line, the secondary got tight and big pass plays happened. That's not once, not twice, but 3 times that we've seen Oregon in a crucial fourth quarter situation where big passes, even from Iowa, are getting connected on you. I don't know what to make of it at the current moment because I don't think their secondary stinks. But I got 3 games that I can point to and say to myself, Penn State, they came back because they threw the ball all over you. Indiana, they ended it by throwing the ball all over you. And then Iowa with multiple big throws to then take the lead. That's why I point that out. But again, you're one-dimensional. You find a way. Your young quarterback gets it done, gets the passes completed that need to be. One of the best drives that you'll see all year, and you kick the field goal and win it.
Yeah, I don't think that their secondary is a liability, but I agree with you. I don't
either, but what do you make of that?
The trend's a little bit troubling, and I know that they've got some youth in their secondary, so I think that some of it might just come from that. I think that the real takeaway here is that this is not – Oregon is, like a lot of the teams in the top 10, is flawed. They have some issues that might catch up to them, not now during the regular season, but rather
it'll catch up
in a game in the playoff.
With USC.
So that was what I was just about to say, is that I think that if there's a game that they could potentially be on alert and they lose in the next couple of weeks, it would be the USC game. I think if they lost to USC, they wouldn't get knocked out of the playoff. I think that as long as that game is close and they theoretically lost it, as long as USC's in the playoff mix, Oregon would still probably be one of the last teams in because the ACC and the Big 12 are probably only putting in one team each. I don't think that we're going to get to the ACC a lot later in the show. It's in a segment and a couple coming up. I think that there's going to be room for Oregon to still get in. And also, but I just want to kind of round back with the Dante Moore comment. I wasn't trying to criticize and crap all over Dante Moore.
I know you weren't.
It was just I know you weren't, but just for Oregon fans so they understand. I was trying to kind of set the stage here that he had no one to throw to. It was pouring rain. There was no reason for him to have pulled off that
And you still
drive.
won.
Right. That's why it's so crazy. And I think that where I now feel excited for Dan Lanning, and I feel excited for this Oregon team, is that I feel like Dan Lanning's shown this ability to win in different ways. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that we've talked about with Dan Lanning. You know, we talked about it last year before the Ohio State game. You know, can he win a big game? And he finally won a big game. And now we're sitting here talking about, can he win when they're facing adversity, when they have to pivot and do things differently? Because this team, a lot of their production and their success was coming off of big plays through the air and using Kenyon Sadiq and using DeCorian Moore and using Malik Benson, turning to all these guys that were these big splash play receivers. And your run game was important, but you had to really run the rock in this game against a team that had built their identity through just punching people in the mouth. You were the team that punched them in the mouth on both sides of the football. And that to me really is a testament to the culture that has been created in Eugene.
You got to be able to put a team away, meaning you can't get a field goal before the half. You got to be able to go in and score. Joe, they force a safety. You got to go get points, right? Like you got to go get like the punt safety does not go as a turnover. It is a turnover. Joe, I give an example of the punt safety you got no points off of, and then the fumble in the third quarter you got a field goal out of. So I got 3 times, Joe, where they should have put the game away too, and they didn't. And you ran the ball for damn near 300 yards. Like you're going to have to put some of these teams away when they give you that opportunity for you to continue to go where you want to go. Because if you don't, you're not going to, like, this isn't going to happen every week. You got to put a team away. Yeah. Because, I mean, look, man, you can't have that many turnovers and only get 6 points. I mean, you're leaving so much on the table.
Yeah.
Moving forward, Dante Moore, Joe, who's going to be there for him to throw the football to? I mean, like that concerns me more than anything. Is what's the status of DK Moore again? Joe, I was told not season ending, could be back as early as their next game. We'll see, man. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. No, hopefully they get him back or at least get some reinforcements because they need it. Now is the most important time of the year.
Completely. A&M takes on Missouri and was able to come out with a pretty convincing win here. Joe Zoller's first-time start against a top-5 opponent, probably not as a true freshman. The first thing that you want to see, I thought he held his own for a true freshman. But A&M blasts Missouri. When you recap the game, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the first big thing that we talked about was that coming into this game, it was just going to be too insurmountable for a true freshman, first-ever start, to be going up against that defense. And they were all over him. That pass rush was all over his ass. His completion percentage was atrocious. I give Zoller some credit. I think he made a couple of nice throws and did a couple of nice things on the run, but that's the most that you're really going to be able to do in a spot like that, in a game like that. I think the Texas A&M team just kind of reminded us, hey, we can beat you in so many different ways. On offense, Ruben Owens completely popped off. No Lev Moss, doesn't matter. E.J. Smith was really underrated in some short yardage situations in this game. And then we continue to see big plays from Concepcion and Craver. It's just the same story over and over again. But the same story we have to bring up, all of the big runs that they gave up to Ahmad Hardy. Yes. And the production that they gave up to Javon Roberts. I am not saying, to be very perfectly clear here, I am not saying that Texas A&M is fraudulent. I am not saying that. I think that Texas A&M is one of the most legitimate title threats that can be out there. But the problem is I do think if they get a disadvantageous matchup in the college football playoff or even in the SEC championship game, if they had a face-off with Georgia, who runs the ball very, very well and builds their offense off of tremendous rushing production, I think that there is a likelihood that they get knocked off if they don't bat down and play better run defense. And from what I was reading, I think a lot of A&M fans recognize this. I think that they're kind of coming to terms like, hey, this isn't good. We need to be better, which is so weird because their fronts have been so good and they can't stop the run. But like, that's just the biggest thing for me because the rest of this is just all status quo. We already knew what they were really good at, but the problem that they have wasn't supposed to show up in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And here's the crazy thing too. They had 35 minutes of time of possession, and they ran the ball for 243 yards. Right? Like, I'm with you on the run defense. I'm with you on a lot of the things that you just said. You know me well enough. I never use this. I actually get on you about it, about saying this. Boy, did their defense check out in the second half. God, they checked out. Joe, they're going to a 5-man box with a 3-man front. You know they can't throw the ball. Like, what were they doing? Here's a conspiracy theory. I'm throwing this out there to you. Don't you yell at me, but it's a conspiracy theory. I thought Mike Elko wanted to yell at them for something. Did you see him losing his godforsaken mind in the second half?
He's always losing his mind.
He's always losing his mind. And I'm thinking to myself, you're losing your mind in a 3-man front and a 5-man box, and they're going 12 personnel and they're running the ball with Ahmad Hardy. That ain't on them. That's on you. I think all right, conspiracy theory time. Is their run defense, has it been bad? Yes. I don't know what they were doing. That is a play calling issue. So, yeah, as much as we love Mike Elko, you can't go to a 3-man front and a 5-man box on 12 personnel. 12 personnel is 2 tight ends, 1 back for those who just picked up football today. They were one-dimensional, and they still ran the ball for 200 yards on you. So regardless of what happened, regardless if I think it's play calling, personnel, and formation, none of that shit matters. LSU is one of the worst run teams in the country. We've seen it all year long. Their running backs average 6 yards rushing on you 2 weeks ago. You go into Arkansas. Arkansas ran the ball all over you. So, Joe, you are right. You don't get the benefit of the doubt, even though Ahmad Hardy and Roberts in this team is really good. Now, I got to give credit. I don't think this offense of Missouri was as bad as maybe people would, it's a third-string quarterback. He's a true freshman. He made some big throws. And, Joe, the truth of Missouri in this one, too, and what could have gotten worse for A&M, how many drops is Missouri going to have from the receiver position? This game should have been a lot closer than it was. If this receiving core doesn't drop passes for Missouri, it would have been. But, man, I got to be real with you. This A&M offense, though, is insanely talented. They're so good. Concepcion might be the second best wide receiver in college football for me right now. And I know that might sound like
I would say I think Craver's the better receiver, if I'm being completely honest. I think they're both gifted. I like Craver more than I like Concepcion.
Just does so much other things, though. So many other he's Jalen.
Craver's young. He's younger.
He's not they're the same age.
No,
redshirted sophomore and a junior, right?
No. One's a true junior. The other one is a true sophomore.
Okay.
He's 19. He's a true sophomore.
I take Concepcion right now. He's Jalen Waddle, but littler. I'm serious.
I can see that.
I mean, whew. Joe, they can beat you in any way. And I keep seeing Marcel Reed get better from the pocket. Look, defense, you better figure it out, but offense, you better be on every single time. This is the best offensive line in the SEC that I've seen so far.
Oh, yeah. Dude, their offensive line, and we've said this a couple of times.
Basantis is the best offensive lineman on that team. I don't care what anybody tells me.
We said this in the preseason. This is one of my takes that I stood by, was that A&M had the best offensive line coming into the season in the SEC. I really like Basantis. I think that Basantis is going to start to rise as a draft prospect. He was another guy that I really liked in the preseason. One of my favorite prospects for this upcoming class when I was doing summer scouting. That dude is strong. He's physical. He can move. And I think that the identity of their offensive line kind of, exudes off of him, and they all have a very similar approach. I believe, too, that they dealt with an injury and they had to do some shuffling in the game.
They did.
And it didn't hold them back. It didn't hold them back. That is a testament to what they have on their line.
I think of Bama and the struggles that they had with their offensive line, which they had on their offensive line versus Missouri's defensive line. A&M did not. And the duality of Marcel Reed being able to run where Ty Simpson cannot is very well could be the difference maker here in a lot of situations. Yeah, you're right. Defensively, they better figure it out on the ground. You faced a one-dimensional offense that still ran the ball for 200 yards on you. Here's the thing, though. You're right. They ran for over 200 yards. What did they do in the red zone when it mattered? We keep saying this about A&M. We keep saying that, man, defensively, they're getting whipped in between the 20s. What keeps happening in the red zone against every team that they play? I mean, what happened in the second half versus Notre Dame? What happened in the second half here? What happened in the first half of LSU, or second half of LSU? What happened in the second half versus Arkansas? They weren't able to score in the red zone. I mean, I get it. You better clean it up, but they beat you in so many different ways offensively. Look, another hot take. Broyles award winner right now for me is Colin Klein at A&M.
And I think that
it's Colin Klein. Now Matt Patricia should be in there. Like Patricia should be in there. Yeah. But again, this offense is completely insane. How gifted, because they can do everything, and there's nothing that they can do everything. So then you got to prepare for everything, and they hit you with something else, and you're so screwed.
Right. They haven't been slowed down except for the Auburn game, and every single week they have seemingly gotten better.
Speaking of Auburn, I mean, is there a bigger indictment, by the way, for a head coach this weekend more than Hugh Freeze?
Dude, that was the worst. I hate Auburn so much because one of my picks this week was Auburn plus 6.5, and they lost by 7. I was just beside myself. Yeah, and also, by the way, I think that, and I don't want to spend too much time on this point, but I know that this could open a can of worms. Blake, this week was really a week where it kind of established a problem that's happening in college football, where a starting quarterback signs some sort of an NIL deal, and they're afforded way too many times to start, and they should have been benched much sooner. Ashton Daniels starting was tremendous. You have Van Buren stepping in for Garrett Nussmeier, which I know we're going to get to in a second, and he looked like he provided a layer to the offense that if he had started the game, maybe the game could have gone differently. I think that there are so many guys across the country that could be starting for their teams, and because of stupid NIL procedures, it is screwing everything up. We've got like an example here with Texas A&M of the inverse of that, where they just went to Marcel Reed last year and they haven't looked back.
Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I thought
A&M.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they had every reason just to keep Wiseman out there.
I mean, listen, here's the thing about Elko that no one understands. It doesn't matter how much money you're getting paid, and he doesn't give a shit what the boosters tell him.
Yeah.
That's
why he's perfect for A&M.
Perfect, because he don't give a shit. Listen, by the way, he's about to sign a massive extension. These incentives he keeps hitting, by the way, are getting large. Because he had from what I understand, he had a massive incentive latent deal. Massively incentive latent deal. He might be this year because of the incentives. He might be the highest paid head coach in the country, and he deserves it.
And he ain't going to Penn State.
That's why Penn State. Listen, I know that we kind of have this SEC Big Ten rivalry, but hold on. You ain't outbidding A&M.
No. You
sure as hell ain't going to outbid them if this man gets them to the SEC championship game for the first time ever. So, look, they are, to me, one of the more complete offenses, if not the most complete offense, maybe outside of Ohio State, but they're really good at what they do. All right, Joe, let's get to a couple games here and a couple of teams. We're just going to talk through these pretty quickly before we get out of here. Bama over LSU. Thought LSU put up a hell of a fight. They went to Michael Van Buren too late.
Yeah, I know that there's not really a lot to take away from LSU at the current moment because their season's kind of done. But, yeah, those are the two kind of funny things with this is that Harlan Berry has big run, couple big plays. It's like, damn, why didn't they turn to him sooner in the season? And also the same thing applies for Van Buren where he comes into the game and he makes some really exciting plays. There was such a stark difference between him and Nussmeier because I thought the kid was just going out there and said, F it, I'm just going to throw wherever I feel like throwing it. And I'm just going to go out there and make plays. Yeah, and he had some huge nuts throwing some of the balls that he had. It was like, okay, that's a little tight of a window, but you showed that you have the arm talent. The one to Hilton
and the one to Brown, I'm like, damn.
Yeah. If Trades Green doesn't drop that one pass, maybe they end up putting together a drive. I really respect Van Buren, and I think that he needs to start the rest of the season. Here's my thing for Bama, Blake. Kind of the same thing that we just talked about here with Texas A&M. We know who they are. We know that they've got an improving defense that makes plays when they need to and gets stops when they need to. We know that they have an explosive receiver room and a quarterback who's going to connect with his guys. The problem is that they have an issue, a clear issue, that continues to pop up.
No doubt.
And this was a game that they should have been able to run the ball, Blake. 56 rushing yards. It felt like they kept establishing control. And then when you can't run the rock in situations, especially with a lead, you allow for teams to hang around. Because this was LSU, and because in the past, in other games, it was South Carolina and whoever it might have been, it didn't really matter. They have to find their run game that they have found before. It's less of a concern for me than it is for A&M's run defense. They have to find it because in the playoff, in the SEC championship game, if they get there against Oklahoma coming up, it could absolutely bite them in the ass.
I saw a team up close and personal yesterday that if you have a good secondary that can go man-to-man coverage, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. What did they do? They walked everyone down the box, and they said, you're not going to throw at Mansour DeLeone. By the way, this is getting used tomorrow. Guess how many targets at Mansour DeLeone over the last 4 games for LSU?
0.
2.
That's nuts.
No one LSU's playing is throwing in his general direction. Regardless of that, LSU went man up. They did some zone stuff, but Joe, every time that they were in zone, Todd Simpson picked them apart. Every single time. When they went man and they sent pressure after him, he was getting hit, he was overthrowing it, and they had issues. You're right. Bama fans don't want to acknowledge this. You remember 3 weeks ago when they came after us, mainly me, for saying that, listen, if you're unable to find a run game, someone's going to beat you. It's not a matter of if, it's going to be a matter of when. Joe, they got out physical in the run game sometimes against LSU. Like, they got LSU out physical them up front. LSU fans don't want to hear that right now. They're mad that they lost. They're mad at this whole situation. I get it. Joe, they got out physical by LSU. I mean, I'm not trying to, it's my team. I would love to come in here and say, man, LSU physically was dominating them from. You got out physical by LSU, who just fired their head coach with all the turmoil that they just went through and they're currently going through.
Okay.
Every single time that they had to run the football, 4th and 1. Joe, they got blown off the line of scrimmage and LSU stopped them. You had multiple 3rd and 2s. You got blown off the ball and stopped, and you had to punt the ball away. They can't keep doing that. And teams are going to send pressure after Ty Simpson, man. He's got to hold on to the football, too. This is 3 straight weeks where he's fumbled the football. He's gotten hit in the pocket. Harold Perkins got it in the last time. He's better hold on to that football because teams with better offenses are going to be able to capitalize on it.
Here's one thing I got to say, though, because we just spent the whole show giving credit to a lot of programs.
They found a way to win.
They found a way to win. And I look, not enough people, I think, understand the recent – that if you have a recently fired head coach, the bump that potentially gives you. And we talked about this in the preview. How motivated does LSU end up being? I didn't think that they were so galvanized by the firing of Brian Kelly.
Defensively, they were, ironically.
I thought that they did. I thought that they showed up, and they kind of reminded us that they have an elite roster. LSU is not reflective of their record, hence why Brian Kelly is no longer coaching the team. They have a very good roster, very talented roster. So I give Alabama a ton of credit for finishing just like we gave credit to all these other teams. They went up against a good team that had some really good athletes. They're going to be NFL draft picks, and they challenged them. And despite being challenged, they still found a way to finish.
Outside of coaching searches, this is probably the last time that we're going to talk about LSU from a playing standpoint. Joe, Garrett Nussmeier got benched, and it was too late. Listen, you more than most understand the beating I've taken behind this, because it's been a massive beating. I'm not going to say I'm the guy that told you so, but I told you so.
Say it.
Okay.
Well, who cares? Who cares?
Okay.
You told him
he's
so.
not.
They didn't want to listen.
He's never been prepared. You know, he's sitting on a podcast saying he doesn't want to get in the building at 5. He doesn't want to replicate what Jaden Daniels did. I'm hearing things throughout the summer that he's not throwing with the receivers as much as he needs to. His quarterback's coach and OC and head coach had all the same agent. Want to talk about toxicity? There's your toxicity in a lot of ways. Dude did never put in the work. Joe, he's never progressed. He's never gotten better. There's not a thing that I look at Garrett Nussmeier ever in his career and say, okay, younger Garrett would have done this. The sack was horrendous. And then you talk about Michael Van Buren. Statistically, it's going to look like Garrett played a better game. He didn't. I mean, the drops that Van Buren had were crucial. Yeah. He's a better quarterback. So
start him in the end of the year, man.
From Heisman hopeful to benched. When's the last time that happened? Top 2 guy in the Heisman Trophy odds gets benched.
Matt Barkley? No, Matt Barkley didn't get benched.
I don't think he got benched. But to your point, Barkley did, though.
He fell off, though. He went from a first
but he played so much better than Garrett did. Yeah. I mean, this is unplayable at the current moment. All right, Joe, let's get to this before we get to some super chats. The ACC is in complete flux. Virginia just got upset. Louisville just got upset. Maybe they're partying down in South Miami right now, and they're partying in South Florida right now because of this. By the way, SMU only has one ACC loss along with Georgia Tech. Oh, my God, this conference. What do we make of this, dude?
Well, so this is the absurdity of it. We're not really going to break down the games because so much changes. Like, so much literally changed because UVA and Louisville lost. I want to just highlight, bear with me for a second.
Okay.
These are the teams that are currently sitting at the top of the ACC. Georgia Tech, UVA in this order, Pitt, SMU, Duke, Louisville, Miami. These are the teams that they're each playing at the end of the year. And I want to see if you can kind of track what I'm putting out here. Georgia Tech plays BC, Pitt, Georgia. UVA plays Duke and Virginia Tech. Pitt plays Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. SMU plays Louisville and Cal. Duke plays Virginia, UNC, and Wake Forest. Louisville plays Clemson, SMU, and Kentucky. And then Miami plays NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt.
So basically,
Miami,
the three-loss team is making the playoff, and it's coming from the ACC.
Yes. Oh, well, that's the biggest part about this. There's a real path for that to happen. Miami still has a shot if we see a couple of teams ahead of them lose, and then they could theoretically, if Pitt wins against Georgia Tech, Miami could beat Pitt and then get themselves into the ACC championship game. The way that I'm tracking this, though, the most important game that's coming up in 2 weeks is between Georgia Tech and Pitt. That is going to be the defining factor here for who we end up seeing in the ACC championship game. All of that aside, here is the most important thing. The regular season is supposed to allow for conferences to establish who is their best representative or multiple representatives in the postseason. Who are the most legitimate teams to win a national championship and go and compete with the field that's out there? The ACC is supposed to have at least one team. They don't. All of these teams are, I'm going to be frank with you, man, they're mediocre. They all do some really nice things. They all have like one area where they're really, really good in, but they're not balanced. They're as far from balanced as possible. They have serious issues, and they can't finish when it matters most. I hate this kind of crap that we do, and we do with the Big 12 too, which I like chaos. It's like, oh, this is fun. Like, we don't know who's going to win it. That's fun to talk about, and it's fun for us to react to. But I don't want to sit here and act like the ACC deserves to get more than one team in. I don't want to sit here and act like the ACC
to get one team in.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we can't control that. But my whole point is that do not expect the ACC to challenge anybody. None of these teams are good. None of these teams are legitimate top 12 teams. None of them should be ranked higher than 15 after this week's ranking is put out there. This is a problem. It's a serious problem.
Same with the G5.
That's a whole nother issue because Memphis lost, and that's embarrassing. But we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
No. They didn't lose.
They got smoked.
I think the ACC's best legitimate optics at this point is to start throwing flags on everybody that plays Georgia Tech and pray to God they win.
What?
Because look, Georgia Tech, in my opinion, is going to lose to Georgia. I think they're going to lose to Georgia, okay? But, Joe, what if they do beat Pitt? Then, God forbid, they lose the ACC championship game. You're going to also paint yourself into a situation where, they played in their conference championship game. You can't leave them out.
I'm praying that last year, this is what I'm getting at. I am praying that last year establishes that they can't do that shit again. Give me Oregon. If Oregon lost to USC, this is what I said earlier, give me a 10-2 Oregon team over whatever BS that you're going to throw out there.
Well, I'm going to throw another one at you. Either Oregon, which fine, put in Oregon, or Texas. Because
Oklahoma.
Whatever three of those teams has the better record resume at the end of this and you think is the best team, by all means. By all means. And it's probably in that scenario going to be Oregon. But I also look at like a Texas, and you're trying to explain this to me. Joe, what happens if Texas finds a way to beat Georgia next week, but loses at the end of the year to A&M? Right? Like, so
Yes,
you have, so
point.
all three of their losses are going to come to the number 1 team in America, Ohio State, and the number 2 or number 3 team in the country, A&M. Now, Oklahoma, they have the Florida loss. Brother, have you seen the ACC? So, again, I'm with you. If they get more than one team in here, I'm going to be pissed. I am going to be like, it's why I lost. I know this isn't the ACC. It's why I lost my mind when we did our reaction on the selection committee's first thing. And I was like, dude, I don't get BYU at 8. Like, just because
they were 7, remember? They were actually
7, excuse me. I would rather a 2-loss team be ahead of BYU in this scenario, because I look at Notre Dame and can see that Notre Dame and know that Notre Dame is a better team. And I'm using Notre Dame because they were the highest ranked 2-loss team. I could do the same for Texas. I could do the same for Oklahoma. Stop giving me this bullshit of, oh, well, they're undefeated. Like, we weigh losses in such a wild way that, like, brother, y'all get on to me saying, who did they play? Who has BYU played? Have you seen Georgia Tech's strength of schedule, by the way? It's not good.
It's awful. And this is why I'm completely out on the way that they put against NC State completely shifted my perspective on them. You can't justify if they lose in the ACC championship game and they lose to Georgia, they can't get in. They have not been challenged. Your most challenging game is against Georgia, and you're going to likely lose that. You're not equipped. You gave up so many big plays to NC State on the ground, and there's no way that you're going to be able to stop Georgia. I'm with you on this. This
and then
is
you
my
got
biggest
Pitt,
problem.
But then you got Pitt. They got Georgia Tech and Miami, correct?
Yeah, and they're playing Notre Dame this week, which Notre Dame fans
they have Notre Dame, Pitt,
Georgia.
Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and then Miami. Let's just say they lose to Notre Dame. Second loss, correct?
No, that'd be their third.
Their third loss. Let's say they split between Miami and Georgia Tech. Now what?
I don't know how that affects, though.
Because
I actually
they would
don't
be
know how
in.
that affects the standings. I don't know how that.
Well, they would be in. Okay, and if they get in and they win that sucker, Joe, you got to ask the God's honest question. You ready for this one? This scenario I'm about to paint. What if Notre Dame beats the shit out of them, but is on the back end looking in at this, and the ACC's got to get in over them?
So this is seriously, like, this is actually legitimately
now, hold on.
like a real problematic issue. Notre Dame could be knocked out for this.
Hold on. It happened last year. Remember my freak out over South Carolina?
Yeah.
The same conference, a 3-loss ACC team. Before you say that this can't happen, Joe, it is shaping up to happen. Oh, God, it's Notre – and look, no love lost. If that happens to Notre Dame, even I'm going to be extremely –
I'm going to be incensed. I'm going to be incensed.
Absolutely. Oh, my God. Run them out of the building. Run them out of – Marcus Freeman, score 70. You're laughing. I'm dead serious. Score.
Don't jinx us. Don't jinx us, please. Don't jinx us.
Okay. Let's get to some super chats here. Lion says, Blake, come on, man. Mendoza dropped a dime. I don't think it. I do not believe. I think it's a better.
I need you to go. It's a great catch, but I need you to go rewatch it a fifth time, however many times. There is a defender in the end zone that he has to layer it over, and then there's the defender that's covering Cooper. He has to put it up there for him to go get it. He's also getting hit too.
He throws the ball up for grabs.
It wasn't luck. That the precision required to hit that throw is unbelievable.
Yeah, it complete luck. Complete luck. Better catch by the receiver. A&M is number 2 behind Ohio State. I agree with you there. Can't see a fourth Big Ten team. Still not bought into Texas Tech.
You gotta get bought into Texas Tech. You gotta stop doubting them.
Joe, let me ask you his question. If Oregon is still a 2-loss team, which they're only a 1-loss team right now, if they lose to USC will, I mean, what do you do in the Big Ten? Because USC is going to have to jump a lot because they'll be a 2-loss team.
Personally, like I was saying earlier, my firm stance is if USC loses, if Oregon loses to USC and they're both 10-2, I am putting USC in at a higher seed, and then I am putting Oregon in as one of the last teams in. I think that there are going to be enough spots, and this is my whole argument why I had USC in my top 25 rank or my top 12 ranking. And there's also, by the way, a path that Michigan could theoretically get it if they beat Ohio State at the end of the year. So we could have 5 Big Ten teams.
You can't do that to the SEC because Michigan went on the road and lost. So if Oklahoma's sitting there or Texas is sitting there with a
but they would have the best win on the season out of any team.
Sure, but they also have a really bad loss to a team that is battling for a playoff spot too.
Hold
on. There's
you can put Oklahoma and Michigan in.
I'm never going to accept when teams go head to head, whether home or away,
beginning of the season, week 2. But the problem is then we got to find somewhere to put Miami then because Miami beat Notre Dame, so it doesn't have to apply. That was in week 2. Michigan's a completely different team.
Yeah, but we also act like head to heads never matter.
I think that head to heads have mattered more than they ever have in the rankings this year. They have mattered a lot more.
No, they don't.
There was the head-to-head mattered in every scenario possible.
You just painted a scenario literally 2 seconds ago.
No, wait, stop hypothetical. Stop. I'm talking about the last ranking.
If Notre Dame beats, it's not a hypothetical. South Carolina beat a playoff team.
That's not what I said. I'm talking about this year when they changed the criteria, the ranking that they put out, the very first ranking that they put out, adhered to head-to-heads. The only situation where the head-to-heads weren't adhered to was Notre Dame Miami. That was the only situation.
Well, they didn't matter for them.
But it mattered for everybody, every other situation.
Besides the one that it should have mattered for. Again, wins and losses don't matter to some of you Rudy Poos. Why do we even play the game anymore? Oh, why do we even play? Nick sends a $5 super chat. Says, Jeremiah Love for Heisman. Props to Jim Moore and UConn beating Duke. They should put UConn in the ACC.
That was my bit yesterday. Don't steal my bit.
Jeremiah Love's gonna probably need to be a finalist. I mean, he's going off. Yep.
Plus 3,500 odds on FanDuel. I have been a big supporter of the Jeremiah Love hype train. He's tops in a lot of categories for running backs. Also, shout out Joe Fagnano, the UConn quarterback, who has 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he was the big reason why they beat Duke yesterday. I don't know, man. He's old as shit. He was at Maine, I think, when I was at URI. I think he was a freshman or something like that. He's like 25 years old, yeah.
Sonny with a $2 super chat says, Blake just says anything. Come on, Tate is easily number 2. What?
I don't know if that's for. He's talking about how you said Mario Craver or Concepcion was the number 2 wide receiver in the country.
No, it's not Tate over Concepcion. I'm sorry.
I think Tate's great, but I don't disagree with you. I think that we need to. There's a couple other guys that would be in the. I think there's. It's
I gotta be real with you. People don't watch Louisville football, so they have no idea what Chris Bell's been doing.
And Mekhi Lemon has been one of the most dominant players.
Carnell is great, but I take Concepcion. Marcel Childs with a $5 super chat says the scary part is Marcel Reed did an audible that went for a TD. If he can start reading defenses pre-snap, that offense can take a final step. I agree with that.
Yeah. I think Reed, and this is a big reason why we kind of talked about how they keep getting better. I feel like I've noticed a lot of growth from Marcel Reed. And I think that Marcel Reed is turning into a big-time playmaker.
He really is, man. He's getting better from the pocket, too, which is really, really scary. Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a great night. Peace.